CJ Stroud will have to do something that he hasn't had to do during his early NFL career, plus 5 thoughts about the Texans heading in to week 8 of the NFL season. Let's go inside the locker room.
Yeah. It's the locker room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, locker room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source. We the pulse of the city too. Landlocked. Got the game in the headlock. Localize.
Welcome to the locker room, number one source for Texans daily digital content. I'm Landry Locker. You can hear me Monday through Friday, 10 to 2 Central on Sports Radio 610 and the Odyssey app, here on YouTube as well and Twitch. Henry To'o joined the show on Thursday. We got him straight off the practice field. You'll hear that interview Friday morning on In the Loop on Sports Radio 610. Appreciate you for coming through, whether you're a Texans fan or not. You've come to the right place to get the pulse of what's going on with the Houston Texans. So subscribe, like, right along. This is the place to come for the talking points, the storylines, the news, all that type of stuff. People that are in the mix, and get some stuff for you that you can't find anywhere else. I got 5 thoughts about the Texans heading into this game against Carolina, which I'm very excited for. This was one that I had marked on my calendar. I know a lot of Texans fans and Panthers fans had done the same. CJ Stroud and Bryce Young. Like that's what a lot of us are talking about. There's also other angles to this whole thing. There's a lot of ties to this whole thing that we'll get into throughout the thoughts. But I think this is going to be a very interesting game. I don't think it could be a trap game. I know D'Amico Ryans was asked about it. That's kind of laughable to me for the Texans to kind of be trapped by anything, especially in the NFL. But it is going to be a game in which CJ Stroud is going to have to do something that he hasn't had to do his entire NFL career, which brings us to thought 1. Robert Woods. We thought yesterday, the Wednesday out of practice was kind of just what we've seen all year. Robert Woods not practicing Wednesday, veteran rest day. Well, didn't practice today either. So it appears that CJ Stroud, for the first time this year, could be without Robert Woods. Now, who fills in for Robert Woods? Do we see an increased role with Mechie? Does Noah Brown do his thing? Does the return of Tank Dell help? Do we see the tight ends more implemented? That'll be something for Bobby Slowik to figure out. But here was Bobby Slowik talking about replacing Robert Woods when asked the question during his media availability on Thursday.
Like I've mentioned this before, but we have a whole stable of receivers that we feel really good about. We think all of them have traits and things that they do really well. And we want each of them, we want to put all of them in positions to take advantage of their skills, So Woody has his skill set that he's really good at and that we take advantage of, and he continues to grow in. Nico has his, Tank has his, Mech has his, Hutch has his. So it's not so much like, oh, man, if we miss any of these guys, we're missing this piece. It's more, okay, well, as a group, these 2 guys do this other thing. Well, how do we take advantage of the same hole, maybe in a different way? That's really any time we miss anybody as a skill player on offense.
And that is true. And Bobby Slowik has shown that, whether it's offensive lineman out, whether it was Tank Dell out, he's been able to adjust. Whether it was adjusting the run game, he's been able to adjust. But Robert Woods is an important piece. His stats this year, he has 22 receptions, which is second on the team, 43 targets, which is first. So CJ's thrown him the most balls, had some big plays on third down, and his 227 yards is third. I also do think there's a little bit of hidden value there with Robert Woods in that it seems like, and especially early on, and you've heard CJ speak to this, you've heard Slowik speaks to this, you've heard D'Amico speak to this. When they're lining up, because he has been in the system for a long time and it's new for a lot of these guys, they're looking to Robert Woods. Now, week 1 against Baltimore, it was kind of rough. Like CJ was looking to him. He was correcting a lot of the guys. So the hidden value of Robert Woods, we hear about it. It's going to have to be something else that they're going to replace. Sometimes that stuff can be over-romanticized. Sometimes it's more valuable early on in the season. and maybe something you got to grow out of, but it will be interesting to see how they fill that void. Dalton Schultz has kind of come on the last couple of weeks. He could be the guy on third down. How do they use Tank Dell? I would look at John Mechie and I would look at Noah Brown. But this is going to be the first time that a guy who CJ Stroud has said that he leans on a lot for a number of reasons, Robert Woods, most likely not going to practice. We got to keep an eye on this, and hopefully it's not something that's long-term, but Robert Woods most likely going to be out. So that's thought number one. Thought number two, what does the running back carry share look like? Bobby Slowik was asked about running the ball and all that type of stuff and how he feels about this is what Bobby Slowik had to say about that when he was asked by John McClain. Little jokage first.
How much time did you spend about working on the running game? Right now y'all are doing better running than they did last year. I know it's not what you want.
McClain's hilarious.
2 weeks to prepare when the running game should take shape better for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I'd say absolutely. The nice thing about bye weeks is you really get a chance to self-evaluate. You constantly do it as a year goes on, week to week, but it's the first time you really get to just remove yourself from any opponent or game plan process for a couple days and hone in on, okay, where are we at right now, really in the run in the pass game? What are things we know we have to fix? What are things we do really well that we got to continue doing? And I think that process helps, in particular for us in the run game, where we've been growing every week and we want to keep growing every week, along with just having a group up front with continuity. That's obviously that's a big deal, being able to have the same guys up front every week. And then our backs just getting an understanding of the scheme and the system and what we're trying to get done, and managing the loads of all those guys. We really believe in a running back by committee. We really want to make sure everybody touches the ball, but we want guys to be fast, fresh every time they touch it. And I think last game against New Orleans was probably the best we did in that regard, as far as making sure that we had a share in the load right there.
Now that's big right there. When Bobby Slowik says that, he's asked about the run game. He says self-evaluation. He says running back by committee. And he says New Orleans was the best representation of that. That was a game in which Pierce had 13 carries. Singletary had 12. So what did the self-evaluation look like? Did they look at Singletary and say we need to get him a larger chunk of the pie? I don't know, but Bobby Slowik just basically told you he liked the way that was laid out, and he said committee. So I know against Atlanta, it was Dameon Pierce got all the carries. I think those days are over. Now, does he get even less of a percentage, or do we see some more Mike Boone? Who knows? But the self-evaluation and the committee, two things that Bobby Slowik said. It is the Locker Room, number one source for Texans daily digital content. Appreciate you for coming through. Please be sure to subscribe, ride along for the top Texans content. Listen to me Monday through Friday, 10 to 2 Central on Sports Radio 610 and the Odyssey app. Thought number three, this one's random. Will Anderson versus Bryce. And you can add Henry To'oTo'o there too. I talked to Henry To'oTo'o straight off the practice field today, and he said he wants to hit Bryce. He said you get within a foot of him in practice, and Nick Saban at Alabama would be yelling at you and telling you to get the hell away from him. Will Anderson told us the same thing when we talked to him at training camp. We interviewed Will Anderson, and he said he's ready to hit Bryce because they used to argue in practice a lot about whether or not it would have been a sack or not when he got him. And they're really good buddies. But Will Anderson versus Bryce, I think this is another matchup to keep an eye on. I know we've kind of focused on the quarterback, CJ and Bryce. Will Anderson versus Bryce, he's got to be foaming at the mouth to get this guy. I mean, you practiced with him for 3 years. You're not even allowed to breathe on him. I anticipate Will Anderson getting a sack of Bryce Young this week. And I think this is going to be some pent-up frustration from Will Anderson. The other thing I wonder, and this is something that me and my co-host John Lopez have given a lot of thought to. I've seen CJ Stroud give like multiple jerseys on the jersey swap, which I think is hilarious. Like just mail him the extra jersey if you're not going to give him the one you actually wear. But who's going to get the real Bryce Young jersey? Like when they do the jersey swap, is Bryce going to give it to CJ or is he going to give it to Will? I think he's got to give it to Will, right? Like they went to Alabama together. They were together for 3 years. I know he's known CJ a little bit longer, but if I'm Will Anderson, I'm offended if I don't get the real jersey. Like, you got to give me the real jersey on the swap. Just something to think about, or not. But it's something that I've probably put a little bit too much thought into. Thought number 4, the wild card hunt watch. And I've found myself watching football this way. And I know it's early, but I just got through watching the Buffalo Bills, and I was rooting for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because I'm already looking at the wild card standings. And Buffalo right now, they're the 7th spot in the AFC. The Texans are the 8th. Buffalo has 2 losses. The Texans have 3. I'm already enjoying that. Is it too early to be talking about in the hunt and stuff? Maybe so. But if you've covered this squad the last few years and you've had to talk about the squad and how bad they are, and you've losing has been better than winning in many cases for the long term. I think you can't blame me, but I'm looking at Cleveland. And it was about the draft pick. Like, you want to have the draft pick, but at this point, you're competing with Cleveland in the wild card. Pittsburgh's got Jacksonville this week. They got Tennessee next week. Typically, you're looking at the division. I don't even really consider the Titans much of a threat right now, which might be dangerous. You might want to mark this because that's a scrappy bunch, especially with Mike Vrabel. But, you're starting to look at Pittsburgh and Cleveland. So it's been fun watching football. First of all, knowing that you control what you can control with the division, but also kind of, rooting against teams that you've been looking up to for a long time and are still looking up to right now, rooting against them because you have like this playoff pipe dream. We'll still call it a pipe dream, this playoff pipe dream about a third into the season. Thought number 5, the rat poison. We mentioned Nick Saban, the rat poison, the praise. D'Amico Ryans, cannot believe he was asked about overlooking someone this week. I thought it was weird. I thought it was strange, but could it actually happen? This is a young football team. This is a team that had a week to themselves. They're probably feeling pretty good. They probably feel like they've surpassed what a lot of people expected of them. This is going to be a good test for D'Amico Ryans as well as the players. How are they going to handle all this praise? And are they going to be able to bring it against Carolina and win a game that they should win? This is a game that they should win. They're a 3.5-point favorite on the road. They're facing a winless squad. Will they avoid the praise? Just to reset the thoughts, appreciate you for coming through. Thought number 1, Robert Woods likely out Sunday. Who fills that void? Could it be Tank Dell? Could it be John Mechie? Could it be the tight ends? Could we see the running backs more involved in the pass game? How do they fill that void? Thought number 2, what does the running back carry share look like? We saw Bobby Slowik. We heard Bobby Slowik talk about committee and all that. What does that look like? Thought number 3, Will Anderson versus Bryce. He's got to be foaming at the mouth. Thought number 4, wild card hunt watch. I'm doing it. You might not be, but I am. And thought 5, the response after the praise. Appreciate you for coming through. Please subscribe, like, right along. This is the place to get the pulse of what's going on with the Texans. And always remember, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. Have a good one. Happy football weekend. What a time to be alive. The bye is finally over. We're back in the swing.
Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize, every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too. Landlocked, got the game in the headlock. Localize every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top 2 and we not 2. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days, opinions to give.